As Donald Trump and Elon Musk set about cutting government spending this week, a heroic coalition of Democrats, journalists, jihadis, shadowy deep state functionaries with sinister agendas even Satan could only guess at, and various other semi-anthropoid creatures who seem to have crawled out from under a rock, called a mass protest of 15 or 16 people outside the place where the U.S. Agency for International Development used to be before it sank dinosaur-like into a bubbling tar pit of anti-American radicalism. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from under a rock in Connecticut, told the gathering wastrels, quote, "Just in the last few years, the federal government has spied on churches, terrorized parents trying to protect their children from teacher union perverts, mandated the use of untested vaccines, facilitated the sexual butchery of minors, encouraged the burning down of cities in the name of a drug addict who died resisting arrest, and terrorized dissenting Americans with financial ruin, censorship, and prison. If Trump cuts our spending, how will this important work of government continue? We are in a constitutional crisis, the crisis of having a constitution." Or wait, maybe that isn't the same thing, unquote. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was also on hand and said, quote, "Trump's illegal attempt to enforce our laws at the border threatens the efforts of Mexican drug cartels to colonize our southern states. That means when you watch the Super Bowl, you won't be able to afford crappy Mexican beer with guacamole, but will be forced to settle for a Sam Adams with Fritos dipped in onion soup and sour cream, which I have to admit tastes absolutely amazing," unquote. Schumer then attempted to lead the crowd in a chant, but the chant died away when the crowd realized Schumer was the living avatar of human corruption. Ilhan Omar, congresswoman from the state of perpetual jihad, was also there protesting cuts of millions of dollars in American aid to Islamist terrorist organizations. "We must not destroy our democracy by electing a president who won't destroy our democracy," said Omar, and then detonated a belt she had strapped to our democracy. To help organize a wider resistance to Trump's spending cuts, the Democrat National Committee called an emergency meeting to elect new leadership who would respond to the party's growing unpopularity. DNC Chairman Fidel Jihad Mohammed Jihad explained that the DNC voting rules required each member to cast a vote for one male and one female, unless the male was non-binary and the female gay, in which case they could elect two pansies and a sassy fat black woman who would say nonsensical things in an angry voice for no particular reason. In the event two white males should inadvertently vote for four different people with the same sexual orientation, then an illegal migrant gang member could break the tie by killing a random citizen and declaring himself a female in order to be locked in a cell with an actual female who would be forced to bear his child, who would count as two Democrat votes, being both an ex-con and a bastard. Though most of the DNC attendees got bored and went home during the explanation of the voting rules, the remaining Democrats elected David Hogg as vice chairman, who, although he is a white man, qualified as a DEI candidate by being an incompetent mediocrity. Unfortunately for Democrats, by the time the DNC vote was over, Donald Trump had conquered Greenland, built a resort in Gaza, and taken back the Panama Canal, while Elon Musk invented a rocket shaped like a gigantic middle finger that could fly through the center of Beijing and particleize Russian soldiers in Ukraine before landing on Mars, where it would release robots who would build a Tesla factory. The New York Times, a former newspaper, immediately called on the FBI to investigate Musk's business practices, but their call was answered by a recorded message which said, quote, "All our agents are currently in prison, so please hold the line during this string quartet cover of Ghosts of the Undead by 6 Feet Under, and we'll get back to you as soon as we're no longer a bunch of evil fascists." Trigger warning. I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back laughing our way through the golden age of common sense. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. I'm seriously enjoying the Trump administration, and I'm old enough to realize that even you guys, even younger folks, are not going to see the likes of this again. So you should enjoy it while it's here, for all its tensions and backs and forths and wins and losses, and wins and wins and wins and more wins. You should actually, enjoy it. And you should enjoy the Super Bowl. I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl. I love my Chiefs, and I think they're going to, go and get that third Super Bowl ring in a row, which would be amazing. You can also enjoy it even more by joining Crane and Company. They will be doing their live stream. They'll offer live, in-depth analysis, the game and the commercials. They won't have any wokeness, and they'll be live on DW Plus, YouTube, and X Sunday. They start at 6:15. The game, I think, starts at 6:30. So you want to listen to that. Also, if you leave a comment and the comment is absolutely morally disgusting and just, completely violates the rules of God and man, we will read it on the show because that's basically our business model. Today's comment is from Charles Gusher, 1923. He says, every time I hear you say we're done with the Trump happiness montage, I get sad, not because I don't understand it's a joke, and it will be played shortly, but because one day it may go away and I can't bear that kind of atrocity. It is going away. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Sometimes I've have a moment of weakness and I'll continue to play it, but really, the joke can only go so far and it dies after a while. And so we will not be playing the Trump happiness montage anymore, but we will get right to this week's episode. Politics is Downstream from Trump. Now, I want to talk to you about what I think is happening because I don't think it's being covered right. I mean, I think it's being covered as a political movement. Trump is making political moves. I don't think that's true. This is a cultural movement. Trump is a culture guy. He is a guy from TV. He is a guy who knows how to handle a camera. He is the avatar, the incarnation of a cultural revolution that's been a long time coming. It might happen without him, but there'd have to be someone just like him to make it happen. And he's been helped by this new media, which is us, which is giving him some support and some cover and debunking people in the mainstream in real time. One of the reasons you get tomorrow's news today on the show, on the Andrew Klavan show, is that I follow the logic of cultural ideas and I can see where they're going. And other people don't really follow them at all. They follow the polls and they look at political ideas and all that, which is also fine, but that's not the way I think. And, ideas are hugely powerful. People think that they're having ideas, but really ideas a lot of times are having them. They're like this force that's like a powerful wind that will blow an entire society to the logical conclusion of the idea, even if the idea is wrong and absurd. And sometimes you accuse the people who have the idea of being bad guys, and sometimes they are. You hate Karl Marx, and he was actually a horrible person. But if Marx had not thought of the things he thought of, someone else would have come along and thought them. They were the outgrowth of the growing materialism and the death of Christian faith, which was happening because of the scientific revolution and because of the industrial revolution, because of political revolutions that grew out of those. And when Nietzsche said, God is dead, so now men will have to become gods, and strong men will have to rewrite this kind of weak Christian moral system that's just made to let little people thrive for some reason. He wasn't inventing something. He wasn't being a nasty person. He was observing something. And, it was this new idea that was coming in a society built on Christian morals. Those Christian morals were going to fall apart, as in fact they did. Just ideas like the world is nothing but material. Morality is just a custom, and your morality may be good where you are, and my morality is good where I'm. Spiritual truth is a human construct that humans can reinvent. That was what he meant by the genealogy of morals. That's what Nietzsche meant when he said we just kind of find out where these morals come from, and then we can take them apart. And these were old ideas. These ideas had been pushed before Christianity. Christianity and Socrates and Plato really swept them away. There were all these people saying the same thing, that there's no truth, that one truth is as good as another, and all this. And both Jesus and Socrates said, no, there is in fact a moral truth, but it's hard to get at. You have to tell stories to describe it. You have to ask questions that destroy your assumptions, and somehow that truth starts to materialize. And those are the two guys we built our society on. But these ideas that have led to socialism and transgenderism and moral relativism, and they've also led to genocide, massive evil and misery. These ideas have now hit a wall of misery, and Trump, a TV star with a genius for the cultural moment, senses this. He doesn't have to think it. He doesn't have to be an intellectual. He gets it. He just feels it in his body, and he wants to bring back what he is calling common sense, but what really is the wisdom of the West, the wisdom of the Christian West, the idea that we, our bodies, our souls are made at our hearts to know right from wrong and truth from fiction. We're not deceived. We are meant to perceive spiritual truths, not just the physical world, but the moral spiritual truths it was made for us to know it. And because this is a cultural wave that is now rising as the cultural wave of materialism crashes, no matter what the Democrats do, the truth is this.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my. What a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
So here's a great idea. Put all your passwords and credit card numbers on a giant billboard for the whole world to see. Oh, wait, that's a stupid idea. And yet, that's basically what you're doing every time you go online without ExpressVPN. I get this. You probably think you're fine because you're careful online, but here's the thing. It literally takes a 12-year-old with some cheap hardware to hack into your data when you're using public Wi-Fi. While you're sipping your overpriced latte, and shame on you, little Tommy could be stealing your bank login info, and shame on him. And guess what? Your data is worth up to $1,000 on the dark web. So you're basically leaving free money on the table for hackers. That's why I never go online without ExpressVPN. I use it all the time on all my devices. It just gives you peace of mind, because I work in coffee shops sometimes and I work outdoors and in hotels a lot of times. And the thing is, this is just so ridiculously easy to use. It's got one big button. It says on, and that's it. Even my technologically challenged friends like me, who still type with one finger like me, could figure it out. It works on all your devices, phones, laptops, tablets, whatever you've got. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Klavan. That's expressvpn.com/Klavan, and you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/sing it.
K-L-A-V-A-N, there are no easy things.
Chapter 1, Tranny. So let me show you what I'm talking about when I say that this is first and foremost not a political moment, it is a cultural moment. You know, when I called the show Politics is Downstream from Trump, I'm obviously using Andrew Breitbart's favorite remark. I don't think he actually came up with it, but it was his favorite remark was that politics is downstream from culture, which is, I think, a great truth. I mean, it's actually, you have to convince people of things. People's minds have to change. Their outlooks have to change. And sometimes those changes are beyond our control. They just are related to things. Like when I said materialism and the death of faith, it arose from the scientific revolution. It's not that science absolutely meant that the religion didn't make sense. It just felt like it did, and that moved through the culture, and people jumped on that train. Because it's a cultural movement, a lot of political conservatives get grumpy from time to time, and I don't blame them. This is not conservatism beating liberalism. That's not what's happening. It's just not. It's common sense humanism with a Christian, overlay or underlay, defeating insanity, defeating the fact that this idea of materialism has played itself out. It doesn't work. It's not true. It's not what science means. Science has gone beyond it. And so it's falling apart. And this common sense is coming back. And so sometimes Trump is liberal, sometimes he's conservative. But the thing is, he is going to move forward in this common sense way. So transgenderism must be the emblematic issue of the end of this idea, because it's where the thought of materialism crashes against the wall of human decency, common sense, butchering children, stripping girls of their girlness. And it's not okay with 80% of people, which is really difficult. It's really difficult to get 80% of Americans to agree on whether it's raining or not. I mean, we are just a fractious people, a legalistic people. And it's not just 80% of Americans who agree that, transgender, that men who think they're women should not be in women's sports. It's 100% of all mentally healthy people. So the Democrats sold us this idea by using their cultural power and expertise. And one of the things is they push past the point of sale. Scott Adams, a very smart guy, the guy who drew Gilbert, he has this whole big theory, which sometimes I think works, sometimes it doesn't, but it has a lot of wisdom and insight in it. And one of the things he talks about is when you're convincing somebody, if you can talk past the point of sale, if I'm trying to sell you a car and I can get you into a discussion of what kind of upholstery you want, you've already bought the car, right? You've already gotten past the point where we're talking about whether or not you want to buy the car. You're already discussing the upholstery. So by the time you're arguing over whether a man in a skirt can use a woman's bathroom or a woman's locker room or be in a woman's sporting event, you're past the point of sale, which is the idea that we're simply material, that if you rearrange our body shape, you change our sex, or if we feel like a woman, we are a woman. We're not arguing about that anymore. We're arguing about specific instances. We've lost the argument because they've pushed past the point of sale. And that's why this is one of my favorite moments of a week where I was just having a hilarious time. First of all, it's the first time I've felt really good. My health has come back since Christmas. So that was part of it. But also I was just really enjoying all this stuff. And my favorite moment was Nancy Mace, who I've become much, much more fond of over time as I've gotten used to her. She's a smart person of goodwill. And during a House Oversight Committee meeting, Democrat Jerry Connolly from Virginia gives her this scolding. He scolds the gentle lady. He says she used the slur when she used, and here's the exchange, cut 2.
The gentle lady has used a phrase that is considered a slur in the LGBTQ community and the transgender community. And let me please finish without interruption. And
I don't really care. You want penises in women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it.
okay.
This is our Congress. It's like elementary school. But Nancy Mace is right. I'm not for slurs. I'm not for hurting people's feelings, yelling names at people. But she's absolutely right. She's refusing to buy in to an idea that's past the point of sale. The Democrats, the left, whatever you want to call them, come to us and they say, don't use these terrible slurs, but that's not what they mean. Because the next thing they're saying is, what do you mean, my son can't come into your daughter's locker room? What are you, a bigot? That my son can't beat the living crap out of your daughter in a boxing match? What do you mean? They jump right from that because what they're really saying is that being a transgender person is a state of physical reality, that in other words, you have actually changed from a man from a woman, which you have not done because it's not possible. Maybe one day there'll be a machine you can step into and change your gender, but it doesn't exist right now. All you've done is rejigger your body, and all the fact that you think you're a woman is a mistake. It's a mistake. It's a mental delusion that you're having. And so we don't, you don't have to be mean, but if what you're getting from us by our politeness is us to accept that this is some kind of change of actual human state, you have won the argument, and it's an argument you should not win. So, and part of this is linked to leftist feminism. I've told you before that all of these words just mean leftism. Feminism just means leftism. Anti-racism just means leftism. They're not helping women. They're not helping black people. They're not helping gay people. It's just selling you the idea that they should be in control of reality. So the thing is, there are two sexes. One of them is a female sex, and the female sex needs protection and grace from the male sex because men are bigger, stronger, meaner, rougher, and they want women's bodies for themselves. They want to use women's bodies, and if they are bad men, they will take them. And that's why the rest of us have to protect them. And since the advent of Christianity, entire civilizations in the West are built on these premises. If you read old novels, which I know nobody does but me, but when you read 19th century novels, every social rule is everyone is a social rule to protect women. The institution of marriage exists for this. The church said, no, you can't carry a woman off and impregnate her and then declare her your wife. You have to marry her and then be faithful to her. It's not just her being faithful to you. This is a new idea that the church invented, right? These whole societies, dating rituals, gestures like holding doors open for a woman and paying for dinner. These are not systems of domination, which the feminists said. These are gestures by the stronger sex who has reason to abuse women to get what they want. These are gestures that remind both him and her that no, we cherish you as women. We cherish you as women. We will protect you as women. And just as women will die to protect their children, men will die to protect women in a rightly run society. So watch Trump. The guy's a cultural genius. I mean, he does it naturally. I don't think he thinks these things through. He just does them by gut. But still, he just really understands what he's doing. Like any good performer, he just does it by nature. Watch him turn the tables on them by reminding us of this simple truth. First, he's signing this executive order that basically tells any institution that receives federal funding, you will lose that funding if you don't keep men out of women's sports and spaces, which is only right. Of course, we shouldn't have to say it, but because we lost the argument by letting them get past the point of sale by saying don't say these words and don't do this and all this. Because we lost that argument, he has to win the argument back. So first, he speaks perfect common sense by reading records that men have set in women's sports. This is cut 3.
Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories. That's a lot. And invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women. Last year, a male cyclist posing as a woman competed in the 800-mile Arizona Trail Race, a very big deal in cycling, and obliterated the women's course record by nearly 5.5 hours. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it, huh? 5.5 hours. So, but you have to hear the weightlifting records. You think that's bad. The weightlifting's worse. In 2023, a man in women's power lifting broke 2 world records and outlifted his closest female opponent in one event by 440 pounds.
So he's just exposing, just by talking, just by giving you the facts, he's just exposing the nonsense. But then this is the moment. This is the thing he does. He then calls all these little girls and young ladies, and their moms are surrounding him, and he calls them around. And I'm not even sure he's thinking it. He says it's a great picture, but he calls them around and he signs this incredibly important, but should never have been needed executive order. This is cut 4.
Want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? Are you ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature, because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
God bless you, Mr. President, says the little girl. And these girls are just surrounding him, looking around. Now, any man who is a true man looks at this picture, and I'm sure you've all seen it. If you're probably listening to this and not watching it, but I'm sure you've seen it, looks at the picture of those happy faces, these little girls and young ladies and their moms, and with Trump as their protector, doing what men have done in Western society since the advent of Christianity and before, and says, oh, yes, I remember now. These are our women. These are tomorrow's women. These are the mothers of a generation that hasn't been born yet, that I won't even see get born, some of them. These are the wives of boys and young men they haven't even met yet, and we love them. And you materialists, you people who have thought through this idea to its logical conclusion, have stolen their identity from them, an identity we as men cherish and as a society wish to cherish and protect. You stole their safety. You stole their privacy and their feminine modesty and their athletic achievements too. And all of this, I'm always picking on Andrew Tate and Pearl Davis and all these people who tell us that we're enemies. Men and women are enemies. Oh, Pearl says, no, women are no good and they're so much less than men and they're unworthy. And Andrew Tate, here's if you're a real man, you abuse women and you use them and all this. This is a reaction. They are reacting to the distortions that were created by leftist feminism. right? Because leftist feminism has told women that their only achievements that matter are achievements that are like unto men. They're supposed to be imitation men, which of course men can beat them at. We're better at being men than women are at being men. And that's why if you're talking about lifting weights, a man is going to be better at it. And that's not where the source of their power and their worth and their grace and the things that we love about them comes from. A culture's women are its central prize. When barbarians come through and conquer your civilization, the first thing they do are take your women. That's exactly what's happening in England right now with these Muslim gangs. They're taking their women because they're conquering the country. We get the women, we get the future. And the feminists are like, oh, we don't need your protection. Haven't you seen it on TV where we beat men up? Didn't you see The Witcher where we won all the sword fights? We don't need their protection. You men, you're just toxic. You're just, and we don't have to have children. We don't have to create homes. We can do something more important, like we can work for a meaningless corporation doing nothing and die childless. Hooray for us. So with this picture, Trump is past the point of sale. He's just reminding us because you just look at them and oh yeah, girls, we love them. We love them because they're girls. We love them for their femaleness. It's not about the sports. It's not about the bathrooms. It's about the fact that they're women and we want them to be women and we want to be a culture that cherishes them, not make-believe women, not make-believe men, but actual womanly women. And we all, I always joke about this with Matt Walsh's film, What is a Woman? That the answer to that question is complex. It's a whole thing, right? A woman is an entirety. She's not a body. She's not a body outline. That's what the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs thinks. He thinks if he can just be shaped like a woman, he'll be turned into a woman. No, they're not an XY or XX or any of that is not about that. It's a whole thing. If a lost child comes into a police station and is crying and hysterical, the first thing they do is they go and they get a female officer because the child knows, oh, here is the person who is made to take care of me. We all know what a wife is. We all know what a mother is. And we're not deceived in this. We are made to know these spiritual truths. We were talked out of that God-given knowledge by this materialist idea that had to work itself out to its logical conclusion. And now it has. As a writer, I spend a lot of my time alone and I value my privacy. There is nothing worse than realizing your neighbors can see into your living room when you're acting out scenes from your new novel because you're old and they can see you because your old blinds don't do the job anymore. It's 2025 and your blinds might still be from 2005, which is now the ancient past. So I'm excited about 3-Day Blinds. They're the leading manufacturer of custom window treatments in the US, and they make the whole process ridiculously easy. You can do all the shopping right from the comfort of your home. And right now, if you use my URL, 3dayblinds.com/Klavan. They are running a buy one, get one 50% off deal. Their design consultants have over 10 years of experience and come right to your home with thousands of samples. No more guessing what your blinds will look like. And the best part is they handle everything: design, measuring, installation. Plus, they can even set you up with smart blinds that connect to your home automation system. After helping over 2 million people get their dream window treatments in the past 45 years, they know what they're doing. Right now, you can get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3-Day Blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/Klavan for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, head to 3dayblinds.com/Klavan. One last time, that's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to the number 3, blinds.com/ how do you spell it? KLAVAN. Chapter 2, the Trump Gaza resort. Now, Trump did this again, this masterful command of culture, this selling point, past the point of the sale. He did it a couple of times this week. And one way he did it was really interesting. He did it with this horrible plane crash at Reagan. It took place. I mean, I can walk to Reagan Airport from where I am, and there's still, the whole place is just littered with police looking for, wreckage and bodies and things in the Potomac. And he made this comment offhand that DEI was to blame. Now, on paper, he shouldn't have done that. It's kind of like when there's a school shooting and the left immediately, when I say the left, I mean the media, immediately crowds the field declaring that, oh, it's because of conservative ideas or it's because of guns. If it's a transgender person killing Christian people, then we mustn't know about that. We can't find, no, it'd be very disturbing, too disturbing for the victims to find out. We don't want to release that at all. They want to seize the moment to blame the things that they don't like for events that none of us like. That's the trick, right? It's getting, again, selling us this idea that somehow the guns themselves go out and kill people, or it's conservatives who kill more people than Islamic terrorists or, transgender people, all of this stuff. When really this is about the fact that we have no system for dealing with mental illness. It's what it really is about, if it's about anything, unless it's about something different each time. So Trump is using that to say he hates DEI, this equity hiring, which is just racism, and we all hate it. And so he blames the plane crash for this. Remember, this is a helicopter, an Army helicopter that crashes into a commercial jet and kills, between 20 and 30 people. And this is a reporter instantly challenging on them. The reporter would never have challenged somebody blaming guns for a shooting, but instantly challenges him on this. This is cut 5.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers.
See, that to me is a brilliant response, because what he's saying is DEI is a bad per se. It is bad to hire people. Bad people hire people according to their race. White, black, I don't care what it is, or according to their sex. Bad people do that. Good people hire people who can do the job, especially when the job costs lives. But all the time, DEI, you keep hearing people say, the Democrats, or as they study why they lost, they say, well, we took transgenderism too far. We took DEI too far. No. It's a bad from the get-go. You can't take it too far, because the minute you do it, it's too far. It is bad. Racism is bad. Diversity, this line, diversity is our strength. Diversity is not our strength. Diversity is a weakness. It's a flaw that we overcome with good ideas. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when we all get together and say, people should be free. And whether you're, Polish or Irish or black or white or male or female, we can all agree on that. That brings us together. All of the tensions between us will have to be dealt with, but we can all agree that freedom is better than slavery. We can all agree that color blindness is better than racism. That's our strength. Great ideas that unify us in spite of the rifts caused by diversity. Diversity is always a flaw. By a flaw, I mean literally like a crack in a culture that can be overcome with great ideas instead of, we can unite. I think we can all unite over the idea that we take each person according to the content of his character. I think that's a unifying idea, because it's a great idea. It's a superior idea. It speaks to the image of God in all of us. We can't unite, like the left wants us to, over hating whiteness, or as some people want us, over hating blackness. We cannot unite over that. That is no, right. So it's the ideas that are our strength. And racism, which is DEI. DEI is just racism and sexism. It's a bad per se, and that's what Trump was doing. So he's using this technique. It's just wonderful, and it's wonderful to watch the press, this wicked, corrupt press that we have, misreport it, mishandle it. So he did it again with Gaza. He has Bibi Netanyahu, the first foreign leader, who comes to visit with him, and he's giving a press conference, and suddenly he just shocks everybody by saying this is cut 6.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, It's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
All right, so what he's talking about is relocating the people in Gaza into Jordan, into Egypt, into Saudi Arabia. Take some of these Palestinians and make them part of your society so this problem stops. Now, immediately, right? Papers run stories. Egypt doesn't want this. Jordan doesn't want it. Saudi Arabia doesn't want it. They refuse. We're not going to take any of these people. We're not going to. And then the left is, how can Trump take Gaza? It's invading. It's taking away these people's homeland and all this. And then the right is saying, well, how can he do this? He promised to keep us out of foreign wars, whatever happened to American first. He's already won the argument, which is this. The two-state solution is off the table. It's done. It didn't work. It can't work. It's a stupid idea that smart people, all those people in the State Department are brilliant people, but they're dumb when it comes to getting rid of a bad idea. It can't work because the Palestinians don't want it. They want to kill every Jew in Israel and then go on to kill every Jew in the world. And, the Jews have already tried that, being killed. They didn't like it. It just somehow it didn't work out for them so well to be wiped off the face of the earth. And they figured I think we're going to try something new, like killing anybody who tries to get anywhere near us with bad intent. So when we're arguing over, crazy stuff like whether, Hamas was justified in women to death, which is essentially what the left has said and essentially what all these universities have taught them to believe. I mean, there's an unbelievable story. Was it NYU? I think, I hope I'm not getting the university wrong. I'm talking off from memory, where the judge just said, Jews were being attacked on your campus and you told them to run and hide. No, you don't tell Jews to run and hide. They tried that too. It didn't work either. And so we have been inherently accepting the notion that there's some solution that doesn't, some two-state solution that doesn't include Palestinians killing Jews, and there's not. And so now when Trump meets with leaders from Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, he doesn't have to say, they say, you can't take Gaza. All he has to say is, okay, what's your idea? Because it cannot be that these people are sent back into what is now a wreckage, into what's now a demolition zone with no other option but to wage forever war against a Jewish state that has as much right to be where they are as any human being has to be anywhere in this world. They are not leaving. Like I said, they've tried being killed before. It just didn't work out for them. Sounded like a good idea at the time, but the Jews were like, no, it just wasn't as much fun as we thought it was going to be. We're not doing that again. And it is amazing. It is just amazing that I've known many people from the State Department. They are the most graceful, intelligent, thoroughgoingly civilized people you could ever possibly meet. And the words that come out of their mouths are just amazing. The things that they think are going on, because I guess they sit around and talk to each other, that are not going on in the world. They'll say to you, it was terrible when Israel bombed Saddam Hussein's, nuclear plant. Why? It was against international law. And you say, well, first, there's no international law. And I'll tell you what else there isn't. Saddam Hussein's nuclear weapons are also not there. And so I'm not losing any sleep over that. But somehow they work out these theories and they're in these rooms with each other. It is just amazing that this idea of a two-state solution, which is never, ever, ever going to work, it's only a prescription for forever war. So now Trump is taking it off the table. And this is a cultural thing. It is saying, let's wake up to reality. It's just reality. It's just common sense. We are made to see common sense. There's going to be unfairness. People have been shuffled around after wars forever. This is going to happen too. There's going to be injustices, but it can't be injustices that just leaves people killing each other forever. Trump, once again, has won by talking past the point that he's trying to make. We're not going to take over Gaza. Maybe we will, but I don't think we will. But what I think he's done has been terrific, which is to get rid of a bad idea. You know that feeling when you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling and sleep just won't come? That's basically my basic night. We've all been there in one way or another. Struggling to get quality sleep can affect everything. It can affect your work, your mood, and even relationships. That's why you got to try Beam's Dream Powder. It's a science-backed, healthy hot cocoa for sleep. It's completely transformed how quickly I can fall asleep. It's special. Other sleep aids can cause next day grogginess, is why I never use them. But Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. And I've tried it many times, and it works every time. Dream Powder is also tested for high quality efficacy and formulated to ease your body into rest, supporting all 4 stages of the sleep cycle to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. The best part, I think it's absolutely delicious. I'm talking about sea salt caramel. Caramel, you got to say it like a caramel, brownie batter, vanilla chai. I should say chai, it's the Hebrew version. And their original cinnamon cocoa. Each serving is only 15 calories with 0 sugar. Just mix it with hot water or milk, and you've got yourself the most delicious bedtime drink that actually helps you sleep better. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code KLAVAN for up to 40% off. Remember, no E's in Klavan. I just make it look so easy. Chapter 3, The Cruel Kids. So I'm sure you saw this New York Magazine article, The Cruel Kids Table, and it's about young upper class or rich people who voted for Trump and were attending a party celebrating the inauguration at a place called Butterworth's, I think it's called, in D.C. And the minute I saw it, and obviously I was not alone, I was joking with a couple of guys at church. The minute I saw it, I saw this absolutely gorgeous, Grace Kelly level beauty of a woman in the foreground on the left of the cover. And I said to them, I don't know, whatever movement that woman is in, that's the movement, that's my movement, because that's where the boys are, right? Where the girls are is where the boys want to be, and vice versa. And of course, I'm making this joke, and the New York Post went out and tracked her down, and she's this lovely, intelligent, very graceful young woman, Anna Claire Howland, a college girl in Texas. And now, the thing is, this article is exactly actually, it's a little more complex than you think it is, but the headline and the picture, which is perfectly designed to cut out all the black people, so it just looks like a bunch of white people in a room, and it wasn't. There were other people, various other people there, but it's like probably a majority white movement, but still they just captured these very, very well turned out, wealthy white people and called them the cruel kids. So it was a very typically dismissive left-wing article about Trump supporters. And here was her response when she was ferreted out by the New York Post. This is cut 7.
I feel like I've been sent this magazine cover and various articles enough times that I need to make a video on it. So this is me on the cover of New York Magazine. I think this article was released on Monday. It's a total dishonest report of the inauguration party that I was at Saturday of inauguration weekend in DC. This party was hosted by CJ Pearson, and he's done a great job this week debunking what this magazine is saying. Since Monday, I feel like the story has blown up for various reasons, so I just wanted to come on here and introduce myself and share my experience. I'm Anna Claire Howland. I'm 21. I'm a senior at SMU in Dallas. I'm flattered by all the support despite the circumstances. I plan to pursue a law career after college and eventually live in DC. So being in DC for the inauguration weekend was incredible. And I'll be back at the end of February for CJ's next event.
So now she's absolutely right, and CJ is absolutely right in debunking the article and just the picture alone, because the picture is worth 1,000 words, right? But the article, which is written by this gay guy who thinks he's non-binary or something like that, I don't know why people can't just say, I'm gay, all right, get used to it, but they can't. So they have to have this whole gender thing. But the thing is, the article starts out and it wants to be disdainful and hateful. And so it uses, I'm sure you all know, that sneering voice that the left uses to write about right-wingers, even when they're not saying anything terrible about them. Even when they're just interviewing Ben Shapiro on being a big media personality, it's always, they always just sound like there's something wrong with Ben. They never say anything wrong about him. He's a lovely guy and he's got really interesting and good ideas, but they just always have that tone, and it has that tone. And it keeps basically saying that these people keep using slurs. Now, going back to the thing is simply the fact that people are tired of being told what to say by these human grubs who have been in our government, who have done all the things they've done, kept us out of our churches, let our cities burn down, mandated vaccines that they hadn't properly tested, lied to us about where a virus came from, railroaded a police, in my opinion, into prison, a policeman into prison, all of these things that they've done. And we're supposed to then, kind of let them tell us what words we can use. And as I was saying, it's not the words that I don't want to call people names. It's not the way I roll at all, but I do think, for instance, like I'm someone who's very tolerant of people's private sex lives. Is none of my business. But having a conversation about whether even your private sex life can be judged morally or can be judged by God or is being judged by God, those are all rational conversations that people should be able to have in the open, in public. You should be able to have it in class. You should be able to have it in your dorm. You should be able to have all those arguments and debates. And really what they're saying when they say you can't use these words, these slur words, is they're saying you really can't think about this. And if they weren't saying that, people would say, yeah, I'll be polite, but I do want to bring this issue up. And instead what they say is it's a slur even to discuss these issues, right? So when you read the article, the funny thing is though this guy, the author, wants to be disdainful, he slowly has to start admitting the fact that what these people are saying, his friends are saying too sometimes, and it appeals to him. He says it's true that over the past few months, this is from the article, since Trump was reelected, I had begun to feel these young conservatives' influence seeping into my own polite circles. We no longer had any patience for the identity warriors on our timelines. A friend and I started swapping clips of Megyn Kelly on Instagram. We thought they were hilarious. I was unleashed. I was making fat jokes. No one, not even the bleeding hearts I know, ever seemed to get all that offended. The only time I lost friends in the past year for political reasons was debating the war on Gaza. And even that, they wouldn't say it themselves. They would just say you're being tacky. It felt freeing, empowering, though perhaps in the same way that bullying someone does when you're in middle school. I don't think that's it, but okay, he's entitled to his opinion. On my last night covering these people, I got to smoking with a model type in a fur coat with a vaguely European accent. I'd later discover she's married to an alt-right activist with ties to white nationalists, which again means nothing because you don't even, it may mean he's met them. How can one country be so entertaining? She says, Americans are just made of something different. Everything became so puritanical. I nodded my head in agreement, says the author. The next morning, I woke up sick. So essentially, he's implying that, yes, this is as freeing as being a bully, but then in the morning you have this hangover. And, it's tempting, but it's nauseating. But what's really nauseating to him, and you can tell if you read the article closely enough, is these people are his cohort. The left has dominated white, rich people pretending to speak for the underclass. That is what the left has really been. It's people in Park Slope, it's people in DC, it's people in LA and Beverly Hills saying, I know what this team should be called, even if the Native Americans don't care whether you call your team the Chiefs or the Redskins or anything else, but they know because they are rich white people, so they actually have a sense that they're the ones who should be in charge. And what he's saying is, oh, wait, all these rich white people, all they say to him throughout this article is we're normal. We're just normal people. We just want to use the language that comes to us naturally. We just want to say what we see. And, my opening when I was joking about the DNC getting together to, discuss their voting rules, here's an actual clip. This is an actual clip from the DNC meeting where the leader is telling them how to vote. This is cut 9. Cut 9 is the DNC meeting, how to vote.
In practice, it is simple and transparent. The order of balloting is designed to ensure equal access to the ballot, regardless of gender identity. As we must elect a candidate of any gender as well as one male and one female vice chair, we will first ask members to elect a candidate of any gender on the first ballot. Any candidate, male, female, and non-binary, can be elected on that ballot. After a candidate is elected on the first ballot, we'll have one officer of the three. So then we will know which position is filled of the one male, one female, and one vice chair of any gender. Our second ballot would also be for a candidate of any gender. Then our third ballot will be the third position that is remaining based on the two results. Either a male candidate if a candidate that is not male has not been elected, or a female candidate if a female has not been elected.
You got that? That's simple, right? It's simple, it's straightforward. And if you're not watching, on the screen is a little square, a little rectangle with all the pronouns in them. Theirs, Zim, her, sie, his, it is amazing. So you have these lovely people at this party celebrating Donald Trump and occasionally maybe using a slur or maybe using a word that has now been deemed a slur, though it wasn't a slur before. And then you have this lunatic basically getting in front of, reading off this nonsense about how to vote for somebody instead of saying, how about we just vote for the person we want as individuals to run the Democratic Party. The Democrats have learned nothing. They haven't changed. It's going to take them a long time. And the reason they haven't changed is not because they're stupid. It's because their ideas have run out and they've hit a wall and they have nothing left. They would have to come up with an entire new philosophy. They might, but it ain't going to happen as quickly as they think it is. So listen, I don't sleep much. I never have. I never will. But I don't like to be restless when I'm lying awake, to toss and turn and wake up with a sore back. That's not the way things are supposed to work. That's why I love Helix Sleep. It is a complete game changer. For you, it'll help you sleep. But for me, it means I can lie awake comfortably. I love the fact that my Helix mattress has temperature regulation. This is a big deal for me. It really is. It eases some of those annoying middle of the night wake-ups drenched in sweat. Plus, it's easy to connect to other wearable devices so you can actually see the data to back up your sleep improvements. What makes Helix different is they don't just sell you a random mattress. They match you with the perfect one for your body and sleep style. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or like me, a non-sleeper, they have got you covered. When you find the right match, you will wonder how you ever slept or lay awake on anything else. Right now is actually the perfect time to upgrade your sleep because Helix is offering an exclusive President's Day sale to my listeners that's better than you would get even if you visited their main site. Go to helixsleep.com/Klavan. helixsleep.com/Klavan. You will get 27% off site-wide, plus 2 free Dream pillows with a mattress purchase, plus a free bedding bundle. That's 2 Dream pillows, sheet set, and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. That's helixsleep.com/Klavan for 27% off site-wide, plus 2 free Dream pillows with a mattress purchase, plus a free bedding bundle, 2 Dream pillows, sheet set, and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. helixsleep.com/Klavan. But you have to know how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. Final chapter, we are not deceived. So I want to break down a little bit this idea, this tidal wave. This idea really has been in the culture forever. Even it was there before Christianity. It is what Christianity ended. It's what Socrates ended. Materialism, moral relativism, cultural constructs. These are not new ideas. The idea that morality is, or your gender is just a cultural construct. They were swept away ultimately by the triumph of Christianity, which, remember, Christianity brought with it certain classical philosophies as well, like Stoicism and Platonism and things. They actually became part of Christianity, and it was now like a sort of chalice that carried this wine in it. And, Herodotus, if you've ever read, great historian, ancient Greek historian, said culture is king. Pontius Pilate, you all know, said, what is truth? Meaning, who can tell what truth is? The Sophists, who were the opponents of Socrates, they said there is no truth. And again, Christ and Socrates were the stones that were thrown away. They were the odd men out, the people talking against the culture, who became the cornerstone of the temple of Western civilization. They said there is truth. It's difficult to know, but you can find it through telling parables, by asking questions. You can come close to it. We never reach the truth, but we come closer and closer to it. So I spent a lot of this week, in a tiny little booth the size of an outhouse, recording the audiobook of my book that's out in May, The Kingdom of Cain. And, like I said, I do want you all to go out and pre-order it, please. It's one of the most, I think, is one of the best things I've ever written, The Kingdom of Cain, Finding God in the Literature of Darkness. But I don't want to plug it for months, but I do want to talk about this experience because it's a funny experience recording an audiobook. It's the only time you get to hear your writing as other people will hear it. I don't know what psychological factors come into play, but somehow when you're performing the book for other people, even though I read everything out loud, even though I rewrite everything 100 times, when I perform it for other people in this little booth, suddenly I hear, oh, this is what people are going to hear. And the book is a study I've told you before, it's a study of three and how they inspired novels and movies. So, for instance, one of them is Ed Gein, who's crazy, inspired Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Silence of the Lambs. And all of these slasher films grow out of Ed Gein. And I talk about what these movies and what this movement through the arts tells us about violence and sex and gender roles and all these things, and psychiatry and lots of other things. But it's also a personal book, especially in the second part of it, about my own journey from madness to sanity and from sanity to Christianity and to joy, and the person that you see in front of you who is obviously maybe mad in a good way, but is not mad in the way that I was when I was young. And I talk about the ideas and rituals and practices that I feel provide joy and wisdom in a world that is, in fact, full of evil and darkness. And so at one point, I'm just talking about reading this book, the audiobook. And at one point, I'm talking about Sigmund Freud and his idea that he was part of the move toward materialism, toward bringing everything inward. All these spiritual things that we thought were angels and demons and God. No, they weren't out there. They were in us. They were just in us. And they were all actually physical experiences. They were born out of our sexual desires, our desire for pleasure, our fear of pain. So, for instance, Freud said, well, God is just our Father projected onto the heavens, and our drive to create art is really the sexual drive that's been repressed and redirected. And so the corollary of this, the reasonable corollary, as I say, ideas work themselves out to their logical conclusion, is that we don't really know ourselves. We're deceived about ourselves. We think we're worshiping God, but no, we're just projecting our fathers onto the heavens. We think we're experiencing the ecstasy of a connection with God, but no, it's really just repressed sexual feelings coming to the surface. And the psychiatrist now becomes the shaman who undeceives you, who tells you you think you're seeing this, but what you're really seeing is this. Now, C.S. Lewis, who was never accepted at the level that Freud was, but was obviously a much greater genius, I think, had this, and Freud was a genius, but he was wrong. But C.S. Lewis was right and a genius, which maybe makes him sound smarter. He had this brilliant idea that he called transposition, where he said, no, it's not that our feeling of bliss in the presence of God is just sexuality transformed. It's that the body has to transpose every experience into itself. So, I'm sure you've maybe seen the statue of St. Teresa of Avila sort of reacting in ecstasy as this angel takes an arrow and stabs it into her belly. This is a statue that was declared so obscene that the Victorian critics wanted it destroyed, right? And they thought, well, this is just a picture of her having sex, but it actually is St. Teresa's actual description made into a sculpture. This is the way she described it. But what C.S. Lewis said is the body is using sexual language to tell us about a spiritual experience. He said it's like a piano playing a symphony. The piano only has a certain kind of note, but those notes have to represent violins and woodwinds and all the parts of a symphony when it's playing a symphony. And our body is like that. It's a small instrument that has to play great spiritual things. And he said, Christianity is like the sun because you don't just see the sun, you see everything by it. This is how you understand it. And the thing about Christianity is, churches have all these rules and they have these theologies and these orthodoxies. And those are really important because without them, churches become corrupt. But those are a map. The map is not the territory. I'm sure you've heard that expression. The map is not the territory. Church orthodoxies, church rules, religious rules, theologies, they're the map. But Jesus is the territory. And so when you have stories in the Bible in which Jesus breaks the rules, Don't ignore that. It's not that he's saying you can break any rule. What he's saying is you are an instrument, not the person in front of you, but that person deep down inside you that you're supposed to be is the instrument. So he tells you, if you want to get into heaven, don't commit adultery. But then when he sees the adulteress, not only does he keep the people from stoning her, he says, I do not condemn you. I do not condemn. And conservatives love to say, oh, so he says, sin no more. He says this, and they want to get right back to the rules. That's what conservatives want to do. And what leftists want to do is they want to get rid of the rules altogether. But that's not what Christ is saying. He's saying the rules of the map, but I am the territory, and I am full of forgiveness and love and compassion and understanding. So the left has because it's been dominant, and when the right becomes dominant in power, they'll abuse power because it's power is the problem, really. But the left has used their power to get rid of all these rules. So let me remind you of some of the things that they have tried to get us to forget. There is a person that you are meant to be that you are not yet. You know this. You know this. You do not want to be yourself. When anybody ever says, be yourself, no, you want to be the self God made you to be, the image of God that is within you. This is what, this is the territory, not the map. You have responsibilities that are inherent in your gender. Your penis is not a toy. Your womb is not a burden. They were made with a purpose, and that purpose is part of your gender assignment, which does not come from the doctor, it does not come from the Senate, it does not come from academia, it comes from God. The world is another thing. The world operates on practical principles. It's going to do that. But sometimes personal morality opposes those principles, and you have to pay a price for being moral because the world doesn't like it when you're moral. Jesus paid a price for being moral. They killed him, right? That's why the whole world killed him in the guise of the people who happened to be around him. Capitalism and free trade and democracy all use practical principles that are not necessarily Christian. They play off our love of gold, our love of gain, our ambitions, our desire to defeat our opposition. And sometimes you as an individual have to say, my company's not going to do that. It's going to cost me some money. It's going to cost me, if I'm on the air, it's going to cost me some listeners. I'm going to do the right thing. But you can't ask other people to pay that price. You have to pay that price. Immigration is not hospitality. Taxation is not charity. These things are individual virtues. That's why we believe in freedom and less government. And we know these things. And most of all, we know that we have to negotiate this world with all its gray areas and pitfalls, but that there is another world, another kingdom where all our suffering here and the things that can't be reconciled and the things that are all gray areas make sense. The churches make the rules, but Jesus is the territory. He is the way that we guide ourselves through those rules. So our job is to follow the rules until we can't. Worship, follow the Sabbath until good means don't follow the Sabbath. Seek out the person that we're meant to be. And that means we know who that is. We know that a man has to have integrity. We know that a woman has to have generosity. We know that a husband is a person of responsibility. A wife is a person of grace and generosity. We know that a father has to bring justice and a mother has to bring mercy. And we know that the image of God is reflected to people who love you and depend on you, and we have to fulfill that image. And we all know this. We all know who we're supposed to be. There's wiggle room. There are exceptions to every rule. There's things we do that may break the rules. But if you're a woman with a body count in the 20s and 30s and hundreds, you know you have degraded the womanhood in you that is the image of God. If you're a man whacking off to you know you have degraded the image of God in you. And when we're talked out of God, when we were talked out of God, we were talked out of self-knowledge by a bad idea. That bad idea's time has passed. Our time has come. All right, you guys have got to see this. This is absolutely amazing. This is at the Daily Wire. We don't just watch culture. We're trying to build culture. And now we're doing it using AI. Yesterday, the God King, Jeremy Boring, dropped the first ever fully AI-produced Jeremy's Razors commercial. And it is really something. You got to watch this. This is amazing.
A tale is told of a star that fell in the days when men were hair-covered brutes roaming the earth. This shard of celestial steel was unlike anything early man had ever encountered. And from those 5 fortuitous stainless steel blades came the world's first smooth, silky shave. And it was in that moment, manliness burst into existence. This blade charged forward through the ages of steel and dragonfire. Great conquerors slew tyrants. Founding fathers revolted. And as men's manes were tamed, so they tamed the wild frontier. Also, Steve used it to get a good shave, and he's a pretty solid guy. But as power often breeds enemies, so a wild-bearded philosopher despised the blade for its glorious manly freedom. This enemy of clean shaves bore the razor to a fiery peak and cast it in. The blade was gone. A dark age of unmanliness ensued. An age of men wearing buns, drinking vegan milkshakes, and wearing really tight pants and acting like a bunch of crybaby commies. Until one day, the great archaeologist and CEO Jeremy Boring went on a dangerous quest on which many before had perished. Through seas, mountains, and deepest catacombs, he found the blade still sharp as starlight. His mission was to restore the blade to mankind and thereby restore manliness.
Will my razor make you as manly as the actual greatest men in all of human history? I guarantee it will. In the most emphatic way that isn't legally binding. Hey, at least you'll be as manly as Steve.
Jeremy's razors. Carve out your legacy.
I have to say, that looks incredible. Truly the only real shot in that entire thing is me kicking the bear at the end. But you still have to shave the old-fashioned way, so do it with Jeremy's Razors. Go to jeremy'srazors.com now, jeremy'srazors.com now, and get the second-gen razor and embrace the future and kick a bear. Klavan Klapbacks. We're just not doing the happiness montage anymore. That's a little harsh but fair. Klavan Klapbacks is Klavan Klapbacks, both with a K. Klavan is the K, Klapbacks with a K, at DailyWire.com. Please let us know what you think of the show, what your problems are, what your politics are, anything you want to write about. We want to hear about it. Here is one from Jason, is the name of the fellow who wrote in. It says, Sir Klavan, I remember a couple of years ago you talked about the Hays Code and how you were against censorship in media while also recognizing that limitations on art lead to great creativity, and the greatest films of all time were made under the code. Also, many great artists come from countries with oppressive regimes in power. How do we navigate this moving forward? I don't want to be pro-censorship, but I think we have lost the plot. Is there a way to self-censor to create creative solutions, or is great art not as possible in times of luxury and prosperity? Excellent, really thoughtful, interesting question. And here's the thing. Great works have come from great free societies, and they have been restrained by the culture of that society. So, for instance, in Britain, in the 19th century, the greatest novels ever written, some of the greatest novels ever written were written, and they were written with great politeness, they were written with great restraint, they were written with great tenderness toward women and with a great respect for women. At the same time, in France, Zola was writing these books that were just filled with sex and violence and craziness. They're much more like modern stories, but they were contained by the form of the novel. And so what I think the answer is, we don't need censorship. We need a sane society. You need a great society that is a sane society, because greatness in a society, political strength in a society, actually does lead to better art. You actually have better art from strong societies normally than you do from small, weak societies. The form of the art it needs to be respected, and you can play with the form of the art, but once you start to take the form apart, the form starts to die. And so modernism is a form of decay, but there are people who come along and do it well. So James Joyce did it well. The guy who really did it beyond anybody was Somerset Maugham, who didn't believe in it, who rejected it, and yet he wrote this wonderful book, The Razor's Edge, which I think is actually better than Ulysses, as he thought it would ultimately be felt to be. But as a form falls apart, it actually loses its power. And that's where we are with the movies now. They're just propaganda, they're just wokeness, and they're just lousy. They're just bad. But once you get back to form, you should respect the form. That's one of the reasons I love working in genre. One of the reasons when I write novels, I like to write mystery novels, is the mystery novel has a very, very tight form that you have to keep to, and it actually powers you to be better, because you cannot just go off on some tangent. You have to keep the action tight. Certain things have to happen at certain moments, and it really does work that way. So respect for forms is more important than censorship and oppression to make great art. All right. We are going into the member block, but not if you're not a member. If you're not a member, you are falling into an infinite pit of darkness that we call the Klavanless infinite pit of darkness of Klavanlessness. That may be not the real name, but that's what we call it. So become a member today. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code Klavan at checkout. You will get 2 months free on all annual plans, and I'll be able to go in and show Jeremy the God King, look, they subscribed for my name, and he won't believe me, but still, I get to do that, which is lots of fun. So please subscribe and become a member, and then you get to come to Member Block. Come to Member Block.